Folks, we broadcast on YouTube, so the meeting's recorded. Website, Robeson Review, so you can see that. It's interesting, there's over 250 views already. And overwhelming positive feedback. Tonight we also have some refreshments in the corner there for you. If somebody's a little thirsty, we have some bottled water and a couple of things of cookies. I would anticipate an executive session, and there's a special treat subject to our chief. So hopefully not changing anything. So we got a treat, a bunch of treats.
I'm gonna try again. I'll wait for the flash and stuff.
Want to try them after the play or should I try them
After the play.
Okay.
Have any of you been on the Robeson Review? You guys, how have you found it? Straightforward. Well,
Should be pretty straightforward. She sees it or she's here to see it. So.
I was gonna say, it's kinda like a repeat, it's just,
Just watch
oh, she's showed me before.
well, the beauty of it is, one beauty of it is, in my opinion, the actual transcript, everything that's said is recorded. And then Richard can use this for the minutes, and it's quite helpful. Exeter uses this to help prepare the minutes. We've struggled a little bit with that. I would ask that it's especially important that only one person talk at a time, because it can get confused. So I think it's a real positive thing.
Alright, we'll do more at 7 o'clock and we'll do a pledge of allegiance and moving sounds for all.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also recognize several firefighters that lost their lives very recently. First responders lay their life on the road, on the line consistently. I don't understand the details of that, but we also recognize our first responders.
Mr. Chairman, roll call.
Here.
Chairman Smith, Vice Chairman Brown,
Yes, sir, here.
Supervisor Bittler,
Here.
Supervisor Steve.
Here.
May it please the board, the Robeson Township Board of Supervisors are now duly in session.
Okay, thank you.
You good one, kind?
Please come on.
I just did a second time on that.
Alright, state any citizens' concerns. Name and address, please.
Bernard Garak is 237 Bart Road. What did we find out since from Thursday? We were supposed to have an answer, I do believe.
Just about your driveway?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the crew's been busy, obviously, ahead of the tree work, we talked about that. I would anticipate that work is wrapping up within this week. We'll be in touch with you before the next meeting. I know you wanted to meet and take a look at your driveway again, so we'll reach out. I can speak to Barry about it, and we'll coordinate with Rich and you.
Okay, correspondence.
There was no new correspondence, Mr. Chairman, since the last board meeting.
The chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board. Under A, the agenda, I discuss monthly police activity. Just the same thing I repeated from Thursday evening, is we had 2 weekends ago some theft from vehicles. They're unlocked vehicles. So just remind everybody to be diligent, lock your cars up. We Still open investigations, obviously. We have a couple suspects. We actually arrested the suspects on unrelated things and got them off of out of our area for a while. So we'll see where those investigations roll. The other thing is that we've been seeing an increase on calls dealing with people that have, basically mental health, that are mental health crisis. Since Thursday, we've had 4, 2 of which our officers had to physically restrain in order to get them to the hospital. So we're seeing an unfortunate increase in that, and that's been the general trend.
What do you attribute that to, Chief?
That's in the questions I can't answer for you. Could be a lot of variables.
Are these residents or visitors?
Residents.
Residents.
Every incident that I just spoke of, those 4, every one were a resident. So I just wanted to report that to the board so you're aware. The other thing, I don't know if you noticed in my monthly report, prior meeting, the board had authorized me to allow the B-Cert vehicle to be fueled here. So as part of that, I put down the B-Cert fuel. We didn't utilize any gasoline yet, but I just wanted the board to be aware when we do that you will see that fuel is dispensed, and of course we'll be taking care of that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Last Thursday at the meeting, it was discussed about the dogs in our parks. After the meeting, I met with Sergeant Rigby, and he immediately sent an email out to the officers. So that is in effect. There has been 1 warning issued, just telling people about the ordinance and that the dogs can't be in the park. No issue, but just to give you an update on that that was addressed and taken care of.
One of the thoughts on that was there are 2 dog parks real close. And I've received some complaints with people that want to take their young children and play, and they got in, the dog dirt, unfortunately. So there's clear postings on the playground. I myself consider our family as dog lovers. It's just not conducive at the park. There's also, I think, some at that park. I think there's also some liability issues. In addition to that, the chief had discussed a little bit with trying to get the restrooms open on the playground. I know other municipalities have the restrooms open. They've been subject to sometimes vandalism, but the chief seems there may be some flexibility with parks closing at 10 certain months. There is some flexibility that we can have some increased presence. We don't lock the gates to those parks. Generally speaking, there's not a lot of activity there.
That's item 11.
After
I was
that,
gonna say, we have that down here in the parks.
It's down on item 11, not the rest
about the restrooms.
of them.
Okay. Well, I thought the chief should weigh in. You don't see any problem with that.
We can help out any way possible. Board just needs to let us know their wishes.
Well, maybe we don't need to cover that then.
But we did talk about it.
And then, another thing I just want to go over this morning, excuse me, let me answer Jeff Rhodes.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you want to call in and be part of the meeting? Okay, we're going to do it by telephone. I'm going to give you the non-emergency number. You can turn that off. 610 582 4276.
I think he was gonna be researching these new shoes. They squeak a lot. Not sneaking up on everybody.
He sits in the van.
So please, folks, help yourself if anybody would like to order, or 2 different types of cookies there.
Good thing to be around, right? Says it's on speaker, answer it.
You there, Jeff?
Can you hear me now? On the wall.
It's still active.
Did you have it on screen?
Jess?
Jen.
This was perfected earlier today, folks, it's not the first time.
Should I be able to pick it up live?
Yeah, if you, go to Robeson Review,
Did that not go through?
Robeson River,
revealed.
review. You've heard.
Are you still on hold? Okay. Okay. You want me to kick this on the speaker?
Why can't we just call it?
You seen Steve?
Remember that? That would work.
Yeah, I don't know.
That should work.
Haven't
Hey, Jeff, is there stuff?
Is he still working?
We'll call you on this vote and see if that's that right. Hopefully the speaker's not out. So it'll work today, though, right?
Work today.
Okay, I'll call you. Excellent suggestion.
Yeah, we would like fun. I get up once in a while.
Hello, Jeff. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, well, Chief's doing his report. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that. All right, one of the things I also wanted to go over is this morning I had the meeting with the First County Chiefs of Police, which we have monthly, and something I wanted to bring to the attention of the board, but also the community, something I've already shared with our officers, along with some instructions. The United Way has a system 211, dial 211, if anyone's aware of it, or if not. You can dial 211, you can text 898-211, you can also visit them online. And when you would text them, you'd also put in your zip code of where you live. The nice thing about that, it's additional sources and resources for people that are in need where our typical services may not apply. What they list under their website is assistance with housing, landlord-tenant issues, paying rent, paying mortgage, utilities, family resources, food, elder care, health, and then after-school programs. They even do some daycare assistance. So it's another tool in my officer's toolbox that I shared with them, but through the community that's present and also might be present online, watching the video, I think it's something that I want to make everybody aware that we can. And I'll probably put a post up on my social media platform eventually about it, but I think it's a very good program. The other thing in other business I want to discuss is Supervisor Diller and I were discussing permits to solicit today a little bit.
Yeah, if you may, Chief, down the little lane that I live, private drive, in the last several months, we seem to be inundated with people going door to door. On our lane, there are senior citizens like everywhere else, and it was interesting when I asked some of them, do you have a permit? They responded, yes, issued by the borough of Birdsboro. I said, okay, well, you're not in Birdsboro. And another lady said, well, I'm just getting ready to do that. I'm not really soliciting. Another guy selling windows had a different story. And I had asked the chief, I'm aware that we had a permit, but our resolutions are somewhat dated. So at next month's meeting, assuming we have it properly situated, I'll be moving to double the fees from $25 to $50 and cutting the time span from 1 year probably to 6 months. And I'll credit the chief for this, that there is a mechanism, because it wasn't my idea, at least this part. There is a mechanism to be on an essentially do not solicit list. And that was just an excellent observation on the part of our chief, because I think some people would just rather not be bothered at all with a knock on the door or anything else. So that too can be, put on the website and addressed.
Yeah.
So I did check several entranceways. We asked, the question was asked, is it posted in the township when you come in on a sign? And it's like anything else, sometimes when you're driving by signs, you forget about them, or you don't really read them anymore, they're just always there. Well, heading west, coming out of Birdsboro on 724, clearly says Robeson Township, no soliciting without a permit. And then the chief, I think, is going to, in their regular routine, check other main entrance ways, in the township. So I think it's a better way to kind of monitor that situation, particularly for our senior citizens, people who maybe sleep in the day, that kind of thing. So the chief was spot on again.
Thank you, and let me kind of elaborate on that a little bit. I'm not aware of it in Berks, but I know other municipalities outside of Berks have what they call the no-knock law. Basically, it'd probably be a question for the lawyers to handle. Usually when the fines are addressed, it's handled within a resolution, a fee schedule. But if you were going to offer the no-knock, what I would suggest to the board is possibly put that in an ordinance. If you redraft the ordinance to say, this is a service that's available, if you're on the no-knock list and a solicitor ignores that list and they come to your door, you're going to get fined, okay? People can put up no solicitation, no trespass signs if they so choose, but how this would work is I would build a form and put the form on our portal. So people don't even have to call us, tie down an officer who might be busy doing whatever. And they can just fill that out, submit it, it comes to me and the sergeant. We build this list, no knock list. And then if I issue a permit to solicit to somebody, if they meet the requirements and they go through the checks, they will get a copy of the list. These are the people that don't want to be bothered. And if they do it, then we have a recourse through our ordinance that we could actually, go after that.
I'd almost like to do that in form of a resolution, but
Well, you said if you read the resolution, you have that in there.
yeah, we can do,
Very simple, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That would be a request that I would have of the board relative to that.
So, Rich, and you just next month put that on the agenda, plus whatever the old resolution is about this stuff, you can.
2016-03.
that's what I like about this chief, he's on the game, most times.
Not all the time.
I'd like to know more about what happens at a chief's meeting.
I could bring you as a guest if you'd like.
Well, absolutely, is there food served at all?
I would have to pay for it.
Oh,
I think you owe me a breakfast though, so.
I'll pay for both of us. Does the township pay for you?
No, it does not.
Maybe we should think about that in the budget, Richard.
I'll add it.
I'd rather just pay for myself, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
You know how many phone calls, text messages I'll get on that? Starting right back there. And that's all I have this evening, unless the board has anything to make.
Yeah, I have one thing to bring up, it needs to be brought up under the road report, but I got the initial report came to me from Officer Schlotman,
That's fine.
and it concerns Route 568
Mm-hmm.
and the tree that fell, and apparently fell on wires. Apparently, finally, after some time, got meted out, they cut the tops off the tree, the rest of the tree was there. And the telephone company and TV company refused to do anything.
Mhm.
And PennDOT also refused to do anything, basically said it's not our tree. Well, and I understand a request was put in for a road closed sign because the tree was blocking the road and nobody could get through, and he was told, not gonna put a road sign placed up here, the last one was stolen.
Mhm.
So this was Barry, Ron, am I getting this right? Cause I'm expressing this secondhand. If you guys got anything to add or corrections to make, please do so.
Well, Supervisor Brown, I do recall that situation, and we were told that the other PennDOT wasn't gonna address it, that Ed only addressed it halfway. It presented a dangerous situation. It wasn't a township road, but certainly affected township residents, so I directed the crew to go out. to
Oh, I agree with that. I think your actions were absolutely 100% correct. But what I am saying is this, I think we should be going to Representative Gillen and our state senator as well, and at least sending a letter, at least asking for an apology for having to do PennDOT's job. And I think we should be sending a bill along if we have any idea the amount of time that you guys put in. I think we should ask for reimbursement. I'm not saying we're gonna get anything, but I just can't believe that they treated us like dirt, literally.
Now, Mr. Brown, how do you feel about, it appears they haven't taken the signs down since Friday with the detour, and I have people detouring around the 724 railroad crossing.
I wondered about that, but I.
Is that true, Chief? I've gotten complaints
Yes,
to
but
the,
I don't
It may
believe
be
they're
any
finished
complaints,
up
but I
there.
don't doubt it one bit.
so the signs are still up, any of you
Yes,
folks?
I don't think they're finished.
Oh,
Because the
It's
roughness
horrible.
of that track, they gotta be coming back.
The signs are still up, please.
Right.
1,000 foot, 500 foot.
Well, but the signs going across the road are no longer there. That's
Leading
where
up
they're-
to it, they're there.
But I don't think they're finished.
They actually, I was told they closed it down for a brief portion again yesterday. That caused a little bit of a traffic. I didn't see it myself.
I mean, I think you're waiting to see how it settles and whether it's gonna be effective what they did, and they'll come back and finish it then. Freeze code, I'm gonna smooth it out a little bit. It's complete, but it's just as rough as it was before.
We've
Well,
gotten
probably rougher, but-
a number of complaints, but, what
Back
has,
to, back to Galen's first thing, do we wanna have a motion about sending a letter that if it would do any good about the tree?
I'll make a motion to do that, yes.
Go ahead, Galen.
I'll second that, Mr. Brown.
All right, and roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
You see that, hear that, Solicitor Road, Supervisor?
Yeah.
So you vote
Yeah.
yes? All right, and I'll vote yes.
Guys, I hope it helps.
I think they dispatched the fire department 4 or 5 times for that tree too. So 4 or 5 times we ran out, well, police canceled once or twice, but.
Yeah,
some
cut
checkers.
trees down the state road, yeah.
It was over 36 hours that tree was across the road. With 568, obviously the bridge being.
That's what really
It boggles
stirred
my
me
mind.
up. 568 was closed already, now you had the detour
The day,
messed up.
when that tree fell, there was also a tree that fell up further on 568. We just happened to be going that way, and PennDOT was there. PennDOT closed at Ridgeway going towards White Bear. They said, don't worry about the tree, we'll take care of it. They turned around and took care of the tree near Evergreen, and they said they'll take care of it. That was the last we saw of them.
Well, if you could get, Rich, get all that information in time that day.
I have all the time and all that
Yeah.
stuff entered in the
Rich can get it
iWorks.
from you.
Yeah, could you work with Rich?
Yeah, I'll just print out the iWorks thing and it'll show the hours and.
Yeah. See how long it was and the time.
I would use some pretty strong wording on the letter, if you can, Rich.
Okay,
Anything else, Chief?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Chief, one question that we had discussed and talked about, and that was the different classes of our drivers and our equipment here. You know the difference, maybe you could help me with understand the difference between a Class A, Class B, et cetera.
Okay. Class A CDL is required as far as our township is concerned. Well, first we'll do it with Class B. Any truck that's registered over 26,000 pounds, so starting at 26,001, would need a Class B CDL, okay? Now, you get into a Class A, okay, you're dealing with that, but you're also dealing with a combination. So the combination would be towing a trailer over 10,000 pounds, so starting at 10,001.
And we have a trailer at this township like that, correct?
From what I understand now, yes. Yeah, we have one trailer, it's over the 10,000 pounds. I'm not sure what it's at. So that trailer, if it's hooked to the tow vehicle, and that combination is over 26,000 pounds, so starting at 26,001s, that combination would also need a Class A, okay? Now, if that's the combination that is being utilized, Class A driver should be driving that vehicle. A lighter truck possibly could tow that trailer, like a truck that's not as heavy duty. But that trailer, being the fact that it's registered over 10,000 pounds, that trailer weight is going to go on top of that truck. So you might fall into it, and that truck has to be registered to cover that weight. So you might have to register that truck as like a combination weight.
Combination registration.
Yeah, combination
No,
registration.
No, Richard, how many of our fellows have Class A's, if you know?
none of the active, none of the active road crew at this time.
Active, you mean,
Butch did have a Class A. Butch has a Class A. but the other fellows, Class B.
Has anybody shown an inclination to get a Class A? How hard is that to get?
It's a little harder, but it's the key.
Now, you have a CDL yourself, correct?
I do,
Manager with a CDL, is that a A or a B?
a B.
Okay.
Um,
Well, if we have equipment that we shouldn't be towing, we better be careful.
I didn't get a chance to talk to the chief about this, but I did talk to Barry, and Barry talked with one of the officers at Exeter, who specializes in DOT regulations, and I think what Barry was telling me, we have the one truck that's
The bucket truck.
the bucket truck. If we use the bucket truck with the trailer, then we can haul things under the 26,000 combination, which would be legal.
You checked Barry with our chief too, as well, or no?
I talked to him about it, and I was getting some numbers and stuff together.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the numbers from Barry, numbers for the.
I just- This week already has been a mess, so I gotta get him all the numbers.
Yeah, this was addressed prior to Rich, and, when they had another public works director, and, I tried to help them out with that back then, and it went flat or what, I can't honestly say what happened, but this is something that we tried to address before. But once I can see the numbers of the trucks and things like that, we can advise them properly.
With the municipal plates, do we have to declare a class on them or a weight limit on them? Or do we just get a municipal plate?
No, there's a weight class.
There's a weight class on each plate.
You have to do combo weights on them to tow the trailer.
Yeah, and that's what I think the truck that he's referring to, and who he spoke to in Exeter, would be my go-to guy when I have questions, so it's a good resource. But, depending on where the weight is, you might have to, do a combination of weight rating just to make it legal.
Thank you.
Anything else, Chief?
That is it. Thank you.
All right, Rich, we got the finances.
Mr. Chairman, being pleased the board, the bill list is before you. It was part of the packet during the workshop. And unless there are any specific questions, I would ask the board to consider approving the bill list for July 2023.
Yeah, I have a specific question on craft code billing.
Yes, sir.
There are over $6,000 in engineering fees on that. There's been no breakdown, at least provided to me. Do you have a breakdown?
I do not, and what I think you're accurately referring to, the complexity with the craft bills are that they're looking at, and we get an engineering bill, and we get a codes enforcement bill. Now, last month's bill that Mr. Bittler is looking at listed 6 permits under the codes enforcement section, all of which were issued while Kraft was still employed by the township as of May 13th, 2023.
Well, but what the agreement was that they were to finish up the work they were doing. And here I'm looking at engineering fees of $6,500, totaling over $11,000, and then I'm looking at a separate billing from Kraft, and this is an engineering fee, our normal engineering fee of $8,000. So we've got over $20,000 in a month, and I'm not in favor of at least paying the codes part of that, subject to really knowing more about. Now, one of the issues had to do with kind of like, I'm gonna say fiscal control. Last year, I referred to our budget as voodoo economics. And I don't really wanna hear we've slowed the rate of increase, so therefore it's a decrease. Now, I did get feedback from YouTube that I was a little rough on our solicitor regarding fees, engineering fees, and people invited to meetings, and to the extent someone felt that I was rough, I would apologize to you. I don't feel that I was, but, if it was perceived that way, that's not sincere. I think we should know where our people are at, what we're doing, and what we're being charged for. It's that simple. And I haven't seen that consistently. It's just That's my position, so I'm not in favor of that draft codes bill.
Can I just ask for a point of clarification to get you the information you got, Mr. Biller?
Well, I don't think it's me that, I mean, I'd like to get that to our manager, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I'm gonna be seeking a clarification as to what craft codes is actually doing.
Sure, understood. So I'm looking at an engineering invoice that's about $8,300. That is $65,000 in in-house fees. That is also about $1,500 in RITU sub-consulting fees. They are broken down by job number in the invoice package provided to Rich. My understanding from what you're saying though is you're seeking clarification on the 278378, which is associated with codes. Is that?
Yes, and the
Okay.
6532 is in somewhere else?
Absolutely. So that is broken down in each of these invoice numbers that's provided by Rich that he can then pass on to either developers, applicants for subdivision and land development, or billed directly to the township.
Ryan, my concern, when I look at the craft bill, there's really two pages of it, or a summary. The second page, for $8,311, every item, every dollar is itemized, so there's no
Correct.
question about that.
Yep.
The concern that I had dealt with the first page, because the engineering fees of $6,500 are not itemized, and I don't know what was done relative to code enforcement. And then the charge of $2,720 is not broken down either. So it's the first page that I expressed some concern about, not your engineering fees.
Yeah.
Because everything is itemized. It's just that the first page, which is strictly code enforcement, I don't know where that $50 is, I'm sorry, 50 hours for professional engineering, et cetera.
Yeah, so they're redundant, and we can sit down and go over this, Rich. The 8,311.25 that you see on the second page
Yes.
is the 6,532 from the first page, plus the consulting fees from Ratu and Hoffert for their work. The item that I don't believe is broken down, probably to your satisfaction, is the 278378, and we can sit down and go.
So are they getting one check, or is that other check?
Yes.
How much do we owe Craft Municipal Group?
We have historically been issuing one check for both services. It's $19,408. Maybe what I should have done is broken it.
No, that's not right.
That's not right. It's $11,097.55. I think we should sit down. I think that Mr. Biller's concern is accurate, Rich. I think we should sit down and go over this.
And you can let me know when that happens, so I can
Absolutely.
be involved.
Okay. So would the bill, I'm sorry, would the board wish to approve the bill list for July excluding the craft municipal services invoice?
I have a question.
Sir,
I saw an email from the chief of Geigertown regarding reimbursement for some bills before the workshop.
I have,
I did not see them in here on the bill list.
yeah, I did not put it on, I have copies of it here to discuss.
Okay,
I didn't have it in time for the Thursday deadline prior to the workshop, I believe. So I did not put it on, but rather I have it here to discuss at the end of my presentation.
okay.
But you're correct.
So, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the monthly expenses excluding craft engineering?
I'll make that contingent upon the resolution of that bill. Second.
Roll call, Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Bitler.
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
No, but yes.
May it please the board, the next item under the financial report is the treasurer's report, which was reviewed at the workshop meeting, showing a balance of $4,642,337. The savings at the end of June, $2,075,477. And then we have the various individual balance sheets for the state fund, our escrow funds, sewer funds, and that transfer is being made as the board authorized last month from the township sewer fund to the sludge fund in the amount of $20,000. That will appear next month on the balance sheets. And finally, the profit and loss for the month of June shows a net income of $73,929.
All right, I'll make a motion, we accept the treasurer's bill. I'll second your motion.
Roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Now, you were going to talk at some point, were you not, Richard, about the budget? Is that in the agenda here somewhere? Where are you gonna talk
I
about?
was gonna do it under I can do that now, or I can do it in the order.
I'll do it because the order will finish all these.
Okay. If the board wishes, I do have what Harold was referring to, and, it's a email from Scott Bello relative to a funds request. Copies for the
Are we
board.
talking about that next one?
Yeah, we're talking about it next month.
Well, put it in our box then, or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, Rich, just keep going with the finance section.
All right, very well. The sewer aging report, we discussed at length. It's showing the active accounts and the inactive accounts. We're changing the inactive accounts to more clarify the exact amount of liens that have been filed. Some have been satisfied and some have not. I just do have a quick handout for the board that I talked about at the last meeting. And this shows the liens that have been filed. We're gonna do this on an annual basis from Mr. Orlando's office. There have been 3 liens filed so far in the amount of $5,139. That's just informational. And that then concludes the finance report, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
before we get off that sewer billing,
Yes.
I approached Richard recently regarding what I consider an ongoing problem with our sewer billing. And essentially, you correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, that we have a resident that has multiple bills, pays the bill, and nothing's showing in 2023. Would you agree with that?
I not only agree, but that's accurate.
I'm dumbfounded and perplexed why it seems that we can't get the basics done. And, I mean, I don't know what to say at this point. So this week I'll try and make an effort to further understand it and ask our staff, where's this money at? It's in the account, we have the canceled checks, how is it not applied? So when we have a little more time, let's try and figure that out, because it's not gonna go away, as the billing cycles keep happening, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Steve, as the billing cycles keep happening and it's not properly accounted for, we're gonna have the person in the penalty and then not.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say it's a problem, but this appears to be some kind of clerical error because they do know they have his money. His account just wasn't credited at this time.
I think you're correct.
Yeah, so just fix it and
But now, while we're talking about that, you think this United Way 211 would be an opportunity for our truly delinquent people that have no other means to call them and possibly get assistance from them? We might be able to post that up there or pass it along somewhere.
so then I'd like to make a motion to approve the sewer agent.
I'll make a motion that we accept the aging sewer report.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
I vote yes, sir.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Rich, anything else in finance?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, number 6, fire company's chief.
I just had the report was in, and I was gonna discuss the funding request, but I guess we're gonna hold to next month on that one, so I have nothing further.
Chief, you mentioned at one of the last meetings that you felt I targeted you. That's not appearing anywhere in the minutes, but I'm not at all clear, I'm not at all clear where this comes from.
this is
Well,
a,
I'm asking the
no,
chief
this
a
is
question.
not, this will, yeah, that's fine, but this isn't part of, this is not part of what we should be doing. If there's a personal thing, I should
There's
be
not a
fine.
personal thing. He's indicating in my capacity as a supervisor that in some way he feels
And
targeted.
this is not.
And
arguing
how is
issue.
it, no one's arguing, I'm asking a question, how is it that, how do you feel that way? Because I just left Gibraltar Fire Company, had a nice tour of their social quarters. I have their, I think you might have asked before, Gene, at one point, here's their constitution and bylaws, this is their 100th-year anniversary. And I don't understand. I asked simple questions, I've never contacted an insurance carrier, and it seemed like you were suggesting somehow that shouldn't occur. Now, since my previous time on the board 20 years ago, I estimate the fire companies directly and indirectly received $2 million. Over the last 20 years, if you look at the budget, Richard, you've been through the 9th gyration, and we looked at the fire company budget yesterday, I believe it was. So, I'm not sure where you're coming from, Chief, I'm not sure.
Chief, if you don't want to.
No, first, just to clarify, I actually asked Supervisor Brown if he had his questions answered, and you answered for him, so, from our conversation, at that point, so then we finished, but, maybe, let's just call it accountability for things being done instead, we'll leave it at that.
I'm not sure I understand, but I believe this board has a duty under the 2nd Township Class Code to get some fire protection.
Yes, sir.
I've asked answers, or I've asked questions about rumors of resignations and this and that, and I really can't get any answers, and the job and the goal should be to fight the fires and protect the public. And I don't understand why it is such a struggle, I really don't get it.
I'm not seeing a struggle. Again, you're invited to anybody's invited to any of our meetings, to public. You wanna see financials, call reports, meet our people, have something to eat, 2nd Tuesday of every month. You wanna
I
come
can
down
get a
on
copy,
Monday and
I can get a copy of your constitution and bylaws and most recent financials.
Get me your email before you leave. We have our books from 2022 at RKL right now, the audit's almost complete. We spend a good chunk of money to do that, to verify that every penny is where every penny we put it. It'll come spiral bound, the 990 will be filed in that. We get 6 copies, annually I drop one off with the township, maybe 2 copies, so I'll make sure one's here after that point.
But one of the concerns relative to the insurance carriers is I know both the fire company, you and Mr. Rhodes were named in a lawsuit. And I'm trying to get information as to what happened. I don't believe our township was placed on notice of that. So we were not?
Oh, you were notified of it, but it didn't involve the township.
Well, anytime we're paying for your insurance, anytime we're insuring vehicles, anytime there are claims, I don't see any reference of discussions, notifications and the like. So I'd like to see a lot more transparency
We're
on that.
talking 6 years ago, so I can't say whether it was a conversation
I'm
in
talking
here.
about a lawsuit that was settled last year.
It started in 2017,
Right.
May of 2017, so we're at 6 years plus.
And got settled last year.
Yeah, but you had discussed it prior to settlement in here several times, and you had discussed that certain topics cannot be discussed. I'm sure you're well aware of the
Let's
details
get
of
with
the
our
outcomes.
solicitor and figure out what information we can get. Was there a payout, generally speaking, a payout from an insurance-based policy?
A payout to,
Anybody? Did any of our insurance that this township paid for pay out?
honestly, I couldn't tell you. That's not items we're gonna receive.
Thank you.
Look, what are you guys paying for your work?
I'm sorry, say again?
What are you paying for your work, do you know?
Don't hold me to it, but I wanna say it's around $4,000.
Yeah, somewhere or another, we gotta get a control of these ones. We
Yeah,
gotta go to
it keeps going
because,
up.
I mean, even if the little sewer authority in Duggartown, we paid $6,000.
Yeah, well,
I
believe me,
mean, we don't have that kind of revenue coming in.
we're in the same
And
boat,
you
but
guys-
we want a third-party forensic audit done on an annual basis,
Well,
a full report.
Yeah, I understand that, and But that was a lot of money for,
100%. Colleen, when Colleen was here, we actually discussed, I think the township used RKL as well, they weren't too happy with their pricing.
we've gone through a couple.
We discussed, can we get together and say, guys, you know, this is all one, help
Give us
us.
a group package.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then everybody bring the information.
Somebody has a suggestion for another reputable company that does not cost that much, but until then, we're gonna do it the right way.
The other question, I saw we had a water vehicle, I take it that's a boat,
I'm sorry?
a water vehicle fire,
Yes,
like a boat,
it was a boat,
on land or sea?
on land.
On land,
Yeah.
okay.
It was in a temporary carport, in the rear of a residence.
Okay. How did they catch fire? Nobody knows.
Trust me, the homeowner loved to know herself.
Okay.
Her husband was an over-the-road driver, truck driver, that was his boat. He was believed to have been working on it, but maybe not recently. There was some grass mowing in the area, there was some activity. I'm sure she would love an answer as well. I believe she reached out to police, PD, about an investigation, the boat fire on the golf course, but I don't think anybody could give her an exact answer.
Yeah, okay. I just thought,
Yeah.
we chased it down some pond or
Emergency
something.
reporting, which is where that report generates from, limits our categories. So sometimes they're kind of like, all right, that's the best one we can pick.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else?
No.
Alright, next is, minutes, reports on possession, anyone like to make a motion?
I'm sorry, but I got a correction in there.
Direction then, okay.
Page 4, regular meeting, on a C under legal matters. Regular meeting, oh, no, it's workshop meeting, I'm sorry. June 8th, okay.
Workshop,
It says Airbnb discussion,
what page, I'm sorry?
4,
Yes, sir.
should say short-term rental.
Instead of Airbnb. Sure, I change that.
But that's the only thing I saw.
What meeting was that, Mr. Steve?
That was June the 8th workshop.
Here,
I'm looking at the actual transfer. So what was that under?
I called it Airbnb under legal matters, subsection C. It was the report from Solicitor Burrell, Christopher Burrell.
And that's an associate in your office, Mr. Orlando.
Yes.
But I miscaptioned it.
That's okay.
It's right here.
We all think that's anonymous anyway, so it's fine. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept, the reports in our possession.
Minutes, reports, and,
Oh, we're doing the minutes alone?
minutes and reports.
Minutes and reports with the correction.
Okay. I'll second that.
Roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
No?
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Sorry, we're recording engineer road. Okay, I forwarded my report, previous to the workshop meeting. I know that a bunch of my items were addressed by the board. I thank you at workshop. There has been an item that came up, this morning, or as late as maybe yesterday afternoon, these are the same. Our, Rock Hollow Bridge, does appear to have a failure of the concrete deck. I know that Barry and the road crew were out to visit this. They provided the pictures. The pictures have subsequently been forwarded to the bridge inspection firm, WSP is their acronym. And we are currently working to schedule a damage assessment inspection, so that they can come out and take a look at this. The bridge is currently closed, as we determined was the best course of action without knowing the full structural impact of this. But I thought the board should be aware. This happened just this morning. So the damage maybe happened yesterday
Could have
evening.
happened, yesterday evening till whatever time I called you and Rich, I'm not sure. Like I said, I only just found it by dumb luck. There was a delineator that was knocked over on the bridge. We were down that way milling, so after we were done milling, I went to go put the delineator back up and saw that.
So once that inspection takes place and we have results and or direction, we will make sure that the board is aware and will coordinate any repairs with Rich.
Does anybody know if there was any flooding on that area?
No, there was nothing.
No.
I know there wasn't because, I mean, after the flooding, I actually drove around the township. The only flooding that really occurred was Mounts.
No, on the road too.
Yeah.
Along
And,
the river,
yeah,
normal river flooding.
yeah, but other than that, like, the Hay Creek didn't come up, you know, tremendously. I mean, Mounts, it always gets like that there.
At the tip,
Yeah,
where we're trying to replace the culvert.
but as far as the Rock Hollow Bridge, there wasn't even nowhere near the time.
Eventually patched
Our understanding, based upon the email correspondence with the bridge inspector, is they believe it can be patched and likely reopened at the current weight restriction. So,
That's what I wanted to hear.
once we have that, field inspection, we should hopefully obtain some direction to take care of it.
Okay, well, I understand you wanna get what the bridge engineer is telling you we gotta do.
Yeah.
What we do.
Yeah, so they can provide some direction, which is typically what they have done in the past, and then, Barry and the crew can address it.
Are we prepared with requesting designers?
Well, that's where I was going next. So, also attached to my report that was previously provided to the board, there was a draft, a RFP for bridge, design consulting, looking for direction from the board. If you'd like to continue to review this, if you feel so inclined, we can move towards issuing this. I would like to coordinate with Mr. Orlando's office before I send this out for RFP. I do have a list put together, it was in my engineer report, for engineering consultants under item 6 on page 3. That would be my short list along with the recommendations from the bridge inspector as to who to provide this RFP to.
I mean, given the condition of the bridge, I'll make a motion that we authorize, request for the bids. I'll second that. For the design. Get it underway. So to the power.
Roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Bitler.
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Mr. Steve, Supervisor, the motion was to, support.
Authorize the request for bids.
Okay, thank you.
For the bridge design. Yes.
We will proceed and do so. I do have one other item, under items as needed, and I believe that the solicitor will likely tell us that we should amend the agenda to do this. It is my fault, this is not on your agenda, I did not have it completed in time. We have a plan that has been before the township, and you are aware of this. That's the latest review letter for the James Bell subdivision. As the board will recall, this plan sat idle while there was some zoning items sorted out, and an application to the zoning hearing board, which was subsequently denied. The plan has been accurately revised and resubmitted. The planning commission had made their recommendations several months back. Currently outstanding on this plan are several waivers, which we can discuss, as well as a plan approval. They are requesting in writing waivers from the separate preliminary plan process, that's out of section 301. From preparing a site analysis plan, that's Saldo section 302A, and from setting monuments along the state route 17 or interstate route 176 right of way, that is Saldo section 503. So am I correct that we should amend the
I
agenda?
agree with you that the agenda needs to be amended to reflect consideration of the approval of this plan.
I'll move that we amend the agenda to include review of James Bell preliminary final subdivision plan.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
I will vote yes.
Mr. Bitler.
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Okay, so the first items would be those 3 waivers. Again, it's out of section 301, 302A and 503.
Any other discussion?
I think, I'm good, I'll make a motion if we.
No, we have to see if they want any discussion,
Oh, okay.
since we amended the agenda. All right, well, I guess-
Then I'll make a motion, we, grant the waivers as indicated on the report.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Bittler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
And then the final item for your consideration would be final plan approval, conditioned upon satisfaction of any outstanding invoices.
I'll make that motion.
Is there any other conditions?
I'll second.
And there's no.
Yes.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Bittler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you, gentlemen, for including that on the agenda and taking action. That's all I have for you this evening.
Anybody got any questions for us? All right, then, Mr. Orlando.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing new to report from our meeting from last Thursday. The items that we had were ongoing, and I have nothing unless the board has questions for me.
I've got a question on somewhat unrelated matter, but we've had some recent activity with some renewed complaints, if you will. And just so I'm clear, I think what we're talking about, Richard, I hope you can shed some light on this, is we had a hearing in 2022 on a 14 Pine View Avenue. Apparently there was a district justice I had asked to be notified. I would have liked to attend that hearing and was not notified and didn't attend, but nevertheless, there is a order, and apparently there are issues or concerns with that and violations of that order. You've got a complaint to that effect.
Correct.
So,
You're talking about 1467 Go Calico?
no, I'm talking about 14 Pine View. I believe it was a lady complained that
Yes, yes.
they're not in compliance. What is the next step? What is the procedure? We send our code person out?
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so
So
there
fill me in.
was a hearing, and we had
A
a
hearing
hearing,
for what?
but for a violation, I guess, of all kind of things.
Well,
Basically, our
Was it,
township
a-
ordinances.
was it a non-traffic citation, or was it an enforcement notice
I think it's an enforcement notice
that was not
resulting,
appealed?
resulting in a district justice action. Now it appears to be,
Well, but there's two times for district justice action.
right,
There's a non-traffic citation.
Right.
If it's the enforcement action, as you said, the enforcement action generally results in a fine.
this resulted, into my understanding, as some kind of agreement, some kind of cleanup, something has been violated apparently as a result of that. So what's the next procedure?
As soon as I see the papers, I'll be glad to tell you, but my suspicion, based on what you're describing, if there's an enforcement action that was not appealed to the zoning board and went to the district justice, and a fine was levied, then the enforcement action, or since there was no appeal, the violation, is established.
Can we get our code, this will be Technicom, can we
Yes.
get them on this issue as soon as possible?
Attached to the handout that I don't know if I handed it out. Sorry.
I did the email.
Yeah, there's a historical review from the minutes that were attached to this. It's a little complicated because of just time. Yes. But there was a code enforcement hearing, and then it proceeded.
So gentlemen, this is one of our first hearings, I think, of last year.
Yeah, it was June of 2022.
Nice. So let's get this situation examined to see if this complaint is legitimate.
Well, when you got this complaint, Rich, did you send it to the new code?
No, I wanted to talk to the board first.
Well, this is not a written complaint, so it should go to the new code.
Yes,
So can
we
you-
will.
But there's actually complaints dating back before 2021.
Yeah, but it's still,
It's the same issue.
yeah, so now it gets back to what we discussed before, when do we put the hammer down and
The complaint we got was from.
According to the minutes, this is a non-traffic citation,
Yes.
not a enforcement action.
Well, apparently it went to the district justice.
But there are two different procedures. One is quasi-criminal, one is a civil procedure. This looks like a health and safety issue, my best guess, without having nothing but this input, would be that these are non-traffic citations, which generally are enforceable under the 1601A of the second class township code, which generally are criminal enforcements and fines.
Okay, let's have Technicon look at that, can we get on top of that, Richard? Yes, sir. If there are also, I'd like to know if there's
Yes.
also any building permits issued for that,
Okay.
14 Pine View.
so anything else? What's going
No, sir, no, sir.
We had the issue come up about the home-based businesses. We keep changing ourselves around, we had to discuss this board. As an excavating business permitted in the R1 residential neighborhood.
I was not asked to look at that from your meeting. I'm more than happy to if the board wishes to authorize me to
on?
do
The
that.
code made their determination, that's what you're looking
What's that?
at. That's the one that the code.
Baysmart, yes.
Made their
But, I
determination.
mean, we keep getting these complaints in, and it seems like we don't ever get anywhere with them.
But the new code and service said there was no violation, whether we agree or not.
Well, I don't think he read it correctly myself, but.
I don't think you read it correctly either.
Both reviewed that and found no issue, correct?
Say again?
Kraft and Technicon reviewed and found no issue.
Well, that's my understanding, yes.
And because two people find one way, we're the authors, we're the creators of these codes. And what I've found and what I've seen is an inconsistent enforcement action where some people do one thing and some people do another thing and the code's the same. And that's what I've seen. And that's led to considerable consternation and negative feedback on behalf of the residents.
Well, in this situation, okay, Harold, when you have two code services said the same thing, there was no violation. So if we disagree, then what are we doing about it? So, are we gonna have some, make our own.
Well, I guess
determination
my question is, do we ask for legal opinion? Or just let it go?
Well, I'm not inclined to let that go. I'm inclined to look at it closer myself. Legal opinion will follow if we need it, but just because, two engineers can look at something, 10 lawyers can look at something differently. Intuitively, there's a problem there. Now, I asked the gentleman in the back, I asked you, and you were pretty articulate as to what the activities were going on there. You remember that conversation from just last week?
Yes, I do.
Well, it doesn't seem to me like that's a home-based business. I don't know if you have an opinion, of that, but it doesn't seem like that applies to me.
All I know is that people have been doing that in that development for years. Been all kinds of stuff going on in there and I know they haven't, I know they haven't had any permits or anything to do that kind of stuff. But this gentleman here is complaining about the excavation and the machinery that's around. That's a whole different kettle of fish than a bunch of lawnmowers.
How far do you live from that excavating business?
Probably 3/4 of a mile.
Well, what's the?
I mean, like you said,
we want someone through a window to look at it? to see?
We went through a lot of painstaking efforts to keep businesses out of the residential neighborhoods, and here we are.
But then the question is, what do you want to do?
What's the ordinance?
Do we wanna, well.
Well, that's what we need, a legal interpretation, because apparently our code enforcement guys had their own
Do
interpretation.
we want our solicitor to look at it? That's what the question is.
I think that would be appropriate.
I'll second that motion if that was a motion, Mr. Steve.
I'll make it a motion.
I'll second
So
that.
I have a motion, a second, to roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
I have no problem with the solicitor looking at it, yes.
Mr. Bitler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
He had sent me a text that his battery was low. He disappeared. It died.
He's gone, so.
I'll vote no, because we have two other services that said there's no relationship. So we got-
What's the property address?
I don't.
Hold on.
What was the question?
Hey, what's the property address?
It's Masler. I do have it if you wanna give me a couple minutes.
Don't worry about that, just send me
Okay.
the document.
What we're looking for, Gene, is a thorough look at our ordinance for home-based business and residential. Maybe look at the opinions. I've got some concerns.
He also has a lawyer that has looked at the ordinance and says that it's not in compliance. So you've got legal opinions all over the place here.
We'll trust our solicitor. Alright. We can go to Public Works now, right, Rich?
Yes, sir, the road crew has been extremely busy, they've been working on, Rock Hollow Road. I think today, they put down 468 tons,
Not today.
Pardon?
But not today, but in total.
in total. And I think we're almost finished on that project, we'll be,
If you don't support it.
Yeah, we are done. We finished today.
that's the main update since the last board meeting.
We had Parks and Rec, this bathroom schedule at the park.
When do we have to talk about the truck?
Maybe the old-
Supervisor Steve was able to obtain for the board the specifications that Union Township just used to purchase a 2024 International four-wheel drive. And I have copies of that for the board, not for consideration obviously tonight, but just for your reading. There are two estimates. The first estimate was for $124,000 for the cab and chassis, and then for the customization of the vehicle, an additional $133,000 for a total price of about $250,000. So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand these out. Excuse me. Just for your consideration, and we'll sort of talk about it at the next board meeting.
This is the second one of these trucks that you're buying. So I'd say, I'm just the guy, it's fine, you guys can do what you want with them.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. You did the Barry.
Okay, you have one?
I have.
We do have a representative behind me from Tower Health. Not Tower.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
They don't want to hear from me.
Is this on a Freightliner or is this on an international?
This is, that's what Freightliner.
Oh,
Did I say
okay.
international?
Yeah, you did
I'm
say for
sorry.
international, that's what.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Change that.
Okay, so like all those frowns back there, will turn to smiles.
Anything else?
No, I just wanna make sure we got the information out.
All right, and Rich, Parks and Rec, the bathroom schedule.
I think the board addressed that earlier this evening with.
Harold, you said you wanted to say something.
But yeah, what I wanted to say is, There are electronic locks out there that you can set codes to, you can put 250 codes in them. You can set them so they open from a certain time and close at a certain time. So there's a variety of different ways you can control access to those bathrooms. And it'll also,
Do you know the name?
I do, it's a quick set. I forget what the model is, but it's a quick set lock. Actually, I showed one to Rich. You can change the access with your cell phone or with Bluetooth, and it'll also notify you every time that somebody locks and unlocks the door. So if at the end of the day nobody locks the door, it'll tell you it's unlocked. So if somebody's not
See if
always.
you can find.
It was a pretty sophisticated piece of equipment that, it looked very interesting. I didn't have a lot of time, but Harold and I did talk about it, and maybe something worthwhile.
You wanna put it on the agenda for.
You can set them up with timers,
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it has a timer built into it, so
that's the one,
you guys have them up there? What make you use?
security first does ours.
Security first. So that's the alarm company versus.
Yeah, but, yeah,
They just have it on it.
just a box that you can set.
In addition to that, with according to the Parks and Rec, if we're done for that now, at workshop session, we discussed hanging flyers and material on the parks. And I shared this with the board, and I don't know if we want to have a formal motion.
Where'd it go?
We did, that's all been wrapped up?
Yeah.
I thought we did it.
Yeah, we
Richard, what's your recollection?
you reaffirmed that they need to get permission to,
This trash was blowing around,
the flyers.
trash was blowing, flyers were blowing
Because you
around.
brought that up, Harold thought we already had a resolution, so you just made a motion to reaffirm.
Reaffirm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it appears there's a social justice where they're going to do sexuality, cultural diversity, that is going to be held somewhere. But I think we need to have some input as to, some permission as to what's being hung around. Okay.
Old business, Rich, anything new there?
the board started to talk about the ARP funding, and one of the things that I discussed with Harold, there are obviously a number of projects that the board can consider, but the key for the board at this point in time is to recognize and remember, I know you do, that these funds either have to be spent, obligated, or under contract by December 31st, 2024. So that doesn't give the board a whole lot of time to pick one or five projects. We can talk about what the board wants to do, but we really have to put those ideas to paper, either in the form of an obligation or a contract. I know talking with Harold, that relative to the Green Hills Lake area, we were talking about some engineering, I believe, which will probably be necessary because the developer of Green Hills Estate is putting in his own package plant that will only service the 50 or so homes in that subdivision. Meanwhile, the township has about 50 additional homes in the Green Hills Lake area. So if the board wishes to commit any funds toward that project, it's gonna have to be discussed, in the next couple of months, because it's all part of the Act 537 mandate that the township has to extend up the service. Now technically, I think Harold and I discussed that 5 years will start when the package plant is functioning.
Yeah, that's what they said on Monday, that's what
Yeah,
she said.
so,
She said it could be another 18 months or so until everything's situated.
unless Engineer Rhodes has a design in his hip pocket, it's,
So, there's a couple pieces, moving pieces to the Green Hills Lake issue. One is, the actual design of the system, which is anywhere from 150, 160,000. And then we have acquisitions of right-of-ways and easements that are gonna have to be made in order to put that thing through. So you could be looking at 200 grand easily. Now, if they started working today, they might be able to have something to us in December. So, as you can see, the clock gets eaten away really quick. Same thing goes with this truck. I think that we should decide what we're gonna do with this truck thing and order the chassis. It'll take us a year to get it. In the meanwhile, the money's committed and we know we're gonna have it. As far as financing the rest of the project, well, we can worry about that when it gets here. So we're gonna have to borrow the money somewhere anyway. And then I think the rest of the money, we need to get the design done on the bridge and start building the bridge so that we can use up the remainder of the ARPA money.
Yeah, so we just said on Thursday, structure and.
Yeah, I mean, but how do we get from the conversation here to actually start to do something?
You make a motion, Mr. State, that's how we start,
Well, or do
if
we,
you're prepared.
well, the thing is, I think the next workshop, if everybody comes up with a couple, what we all view.
Well, I
as
thought that's what
things.
we decided at the workshop, last workshop, that we were gonna have something for the night.
Well,
But
and the thing is, it's the bridges, it's the roads, it's the truck, so, but
we weren't sure at workshop if the truck was applicable or not. Rich seems to think it is.
I beg your pardon?
The truck is applicable to this money for.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I think we had about 700,000 or something in that.
777.
Yeah, so we could,
Unless the board wishes to at least purchase the truck as we did with the front end loader. That's,
well, that purchase it still leaves us trying to figure out what we're gonna do with the rest of this money.
yeah.
And I think when we make the commitment, we're done.
bridges, roads, bridges, whatever, we have roads.
Well, we get the balance of the bridge, I mean.
Bridge, roads, and the sewage projects, that's there's your.
Yeah, I think we had a motion earlier for $500,000 for the sewer project. Yeah, well, obviously, we're not gonna be able to spend that because we're not gonna be able to turn dirt
That
by
was,
the time that
that was
comes.
the project to go from here to there,
Exactly.
so that's gone. So-
That part of the project's gone, but we could make a motion, I guess, to apply that money for the planning and whatever work has to be done for the collection system between those lakes.
And so what do you think? What do you want to, what's the, do we think sewage is first, bridge second, roads third?
Well, I was thinking, do the lake first.
So sewage up there.
Yep, and then we could do the bridge and then the truck. Because we're gonna need a truck, I mean,
Well, now,
or the truck and the bridge.
Okay.
Makes more sense.
well, but you want to do the lease, because it would be better to put more money into the bridges or the sewage.
You're still gonna have to lease the bill on the truck.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I'm, okay, so the deal here is, we need to make a decision on the truck, but, I think that this bridge is gonna cost us more than 500K. So we got 700-some thousand, if we, spend 500 on the bridge and 200 on the sewer, pretty much uses up that money.
And that would, I think that's okay.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
So you want to do bridge?
You'd be plowing, we
I wanna do it all.
Well, you know, the other thing is, if we do the truck deal, even if we do the lease purchase, we're going to have to put a substantial down payment when we do that. And we could use the balance, whatever we don't spend on the bridge on that. We have a bridge fund set aside already. Yeah, I
It
know.
doesn't have, it doesn't have a ridiculous amount, and because some of the other bridges are gonna do the same thing.
Right, we'll have a
We
list.
have other bridges for sure that are gonna need attention.
Yep.
I think the fund that we have now might be designated for Rock Hollow Road. As soon as that one's done, we either make it a general bridge.
I think it is a general
I
fund.
don't know for sure.
So,
I know Green Hills Road Bridge, it was specific for Green Hills.
Are we bold to make a motion tonight about all this stuff?
I don't see why we wanna wait, because the clock's ticking. We basically have, 15 months.
Well, one reason is it's not on your agenda and you're talking about spending money.
Well, we have ARPA funding.
It's on the agenda, Harvard Fund is on the agenda.
Oh, it's on the agenda.
And then
Okay. So I'll make a motion, we,
Now, hold on, do you know the exact amount we have?
$777,000.
How many cents? It's just exactly
I don't know that number.
is that with the interest we accrued?
No, that was the original.
Well, because I was gonna say, you're gonna say 500,000 or something.
Okay, so, I think I know how we're gonna verbalize this. I'm gonna make a motion that we authorize 200,000 for the design of the, Green Hills Lake Sewer Project, as well as easement,
Right away?
right-of-ways. And then I'd like to, make a motion that we, allocate, 600,000 for the Rock Hollow Bridge project, which is 500,000 more than he thinks it is. And then the balance to be placed on, the vehicle purchase.
That would be one motion.
I think that's too much money.
Oh, no, it's 800,000 is what I spent.
Because you're assuming the interest were up to 800,000.
Yeah, we should have more than that.
Be close.
And if there's anything left over, it comes on the truck.
So the two primary projects are gonna be Green Hills Lake and.
And the bridge.
And whatever residual funds are left, try to apply them to the purchase of the, freight line.
So you're putting, how many thousand in Green Hills Lake?
Sorry.
I'd like to think about that too. Can we think about that till next month?
Well, he made a motion, so we can just sit here and not have a second if we're so inclined.
Like I say, you guys do what you want, but their clock's ticking. So if you're not gonna authorize them to start the design of the Green Hills Lake project, now we're looking at January or February. And then you're not gonna get application for any funding between now. And then even after you get the funding, you're at least a year out before you can turn a shovel of dirt. So you're going 200, 500, 100, is that what you're doing? Yeah. 200, 600. 200, 600.
And then if it's left over, sure.
Anything left over for the truck?
I don't think there'll be anything left over.
Well, if
No truck.
Ryan's right, there's 100,000 left over.
We don't need more than that.
If he's wrong, too bad.
So we have that motion on the table to do 200, 600. To get the ball rolling, because we need to get the ball rolling.
If you're doing that, it looks to me like on your bridge, your truck is gonna have to be a lease purchase deal. Well, we figure it's gonna have to be a lease purchase regardless.
Yeah.
But then the down payment would come from whatever's left.
Yeah, if there's anything, hopefully there'll be something left. You know, what we're gonna do with the money we have in our bridge fund.
You know, it's the general.
Work on the next bridge. Work on the next bridge. Well, yeah, there's no problem. We're sure each bridge is to work on.
So I'll make a second, just to, roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
I think so, yes.
Mr. Bittler,
Vote no.
I vote yes. Anything else for old business before we get to good in the order? Anything else before we need executive session?
Yeah, we'll be heading into executive session, and by agreement of our chief of police, I want to invite everybody to see at least where we discuss things in executive session, if you're interested. So we're going to take a little walk down to, I'll refer to it as the garage. We'll excuse you back to this room.
You call it that because it is one.
I call it that because it is a garage. Chief, I'm still correcting that. So we're gonna go down in the garage where we sit in executive session. It's important to me that we limit those executive sessions, that we discuss as much publicly as possible. But if anybody wants to see that, we're gonna ask, cause it's gonna be hot down there, we're gonna ask you to come back here, enjoy the refreshments and cookies. Notice we're not taking them with us. So if anybody wants to see the garage, the executive session, then we wanna excuse you guys and the call.
Doing well.
Hey,
Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend, I'm hoping, you know, St. Joe's Tuesday night too. Just my question, I wanna talk to Gene about it.
I'll supply the shovel.
And honestly, it was.
I'll supply the shovel.
I
No, I'm giving you one foot.
He said
Paid by the hour.
Everybody join us in the garage, there are a few steps to go.
Sorry, you know, you're gonna be answering the order you received. So I'm waiting for the ambulance to do whatever.
I'm not scared.
So he'll let you know when they're ready, and then you can come in. You can sign tonight, and I'll get some email ready to go. We are. Like I said, we're ready. Yeah, someone, we're gonna be snowed up. I'm gonna have to run over that. Like, wait a minute, it's gonna be.
I'm just silently waiting. Thank you.
You bet.
I'll bring the mower out.
That's not an experience.
We think a four-wheeler's worth like an hour. I'll do my route.
That actually.
That's good, cause that's fine. Eliminates one for me.
There you go.
Not only will you get put.
I won't take my rock out.
You'll get delayed if it's not critical, you can go
I
30
would
minutes
have
to an hour.
I know, real quick, do you know anything about the check for the low bid? We have still yet to receive.
I don't know whether or
Yeah,
not
that's.
Where is
there
you?
was a report issued about
Yeah.
home-based.
I have no idea, the only reason is Larry called me
If there
today,
was.
he's
Well,
like,
I'll
hey,
say something to him.
he's like, what's going on? Yeah.
I'll say something to him. Cliff notes on this.
We're gonna lose that guy.
He'll just hear it, tease us.
Do you have anything to deal with, like missing miles like the other guys?
Yeah.
I was over at April all day today, Dave, the operator training for fuel pumps. Craig and Steve, I think, were in, and Craig, we plow like missing barrel work and they get like overloaded, that's all Craig's over it.
You know,
I should have just played my RC move. Got 46
What are you putting her in?
I was going to go, I got Hunter a little busy.
Can you break it down my pond?
No. So mine, Hunters will do like 20.
Yeah, you were gonna run out of space in mine.
Well, no, my
Take it from the bank.
My catamaran with 6 cell batteries
Yeah.
will do 110.
Yeah, you better go to like Lumore.
No, I won't even be able to, I mean,
Yes.
I know you will.
You don't really.
Maybe we can take-
I wanted to take it to
Does
stuff.
she have a lawyer?
Maybe we could take it first.
It's in, yeah, it's in.
Gene, we'll touch base on that stuff, okay? I'll be out of the office rest of this week, but I'll be in touch.
I ate one cookies this week when I had
My only concern with putting the steel plate on that
Yeah.
is the shifting sideways.
Oh, yeah, I don't, you know.
Downshift the tanker on it.
Yeah. What's that?
There we go. That's not gonna downshift the tanker on the chain.
I just don't think a steel plate would. You know what I mean? With as much as it shifts back and forth, then we know, you put a blacktop over that, it's gonna crack out.
I don't think anything's gonna necessarily stay there. See what he says. That's what we come up with.
Well, they're done with Cedar Lane,
I saw.
they're not done with the other.
I have speed bumps
Tomorrow.
everywhere.
Yes, they should be, you have a speed bump?
I have speed bumps on my side now. They get like the level runs today, the level out where the old patch shops were, so tomorrow.
They should pull through that tomorrow.
Like I was out there like 6:15 this morning with the sweeper.
Good morning.
I was up, I was like, I'm not used to hearing noise there.
So I answer a question.
Into so much. Uh-huh. I'm not a fan of that, but,
Or if we go downstairs, oh, there you are. Oh, come here.
yeah, I think that should be.
No.
Person.
I think I was.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that yet. Oh, God.
I'm gonna hang for a few.
Fresh air.
How much was the crap?
Gonna hang for a few minutes.
You have a problem with this?
Me? No, I don't, to be honest. No, I just, accountability, just with my words tonight.
You know what, you're gonna be able to, that's the estimate that was given to us by. Their concern. Their concern is that
Mm-hmm. So here's my township. HK is right in my backyard, but I know.
How can that be? How can you not mark the material and want everybody else to do yourself? Well, I think for CMS, it is. Yeah, a lot. No, just in general. Oh, they are. Yeah, just in general. Yeah.
That's why I tell her, stay over there, down there. Before we down. And in our backyard.
Did you sign in?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yes.
That's trouble.
See, here we got the, quick learning session.
See ya.
The other ones were cold, so they stayed down because of the
Oh,
And come back up.
after this week.
When we run, the fires just turned because of you laughter, so they're like. You were there, right? Yeah, you were there. Roughly
And-
24-1.
Long
I'm going off to college.
I liked it.
Well, you stuttered at first, like,
Yeah.
I was thinking of a sarcastic response or a funny response, but it wasn't in the mindset.
Are you bleeding here?
No, there's somebody lost some food or something at some point.
Oh.
If I fell out of me, we have
Well,
problems.
no, it's not, it just looks.
It's a little
It's
chunky.
like water stuff you go from here.
A cherry or a grape?
Tomorrow.
And Anthony Martin left, we can't like.
I wouldn't want to.
Do the shit over tomorrow.
I'll let you work on it.
go back to it. See?
Dirt bike.
No, a motorcycle, like, freaking motorcycle.
We're back in regular session at 8:37. We did discuss some personnel and legal issues. Anything else before we adjourn?
No, sir.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. And that's, what time you got?
8:37. They're doing at least